Ha! There it finally goes. Hey, everybody. I am finally here. You will have to pardon the atrocious lighting. Like, it is truly heinous. But I just moved to Germany and I'm currently in temporary housing. So I have nothing. There's a couple of things in the mail. So hopefully the next time we do book club, it'll be better. Welcome. This is Book Club. My name is October K. Santarelli. I am an author and I love supporting my fellow authors. So, for my Patreon, which is the link will be down below for you guys, for my Patreon, I started a book club. Um, and we started with the book A Circle of Stars by Craig Montgomery. And this book I read it when it first came out. And very recently, the second book came out. It is a complete duology. So the first book is A Circle of Stars, and the second book is A Sky So Hollow. And so I wanted to reread it, and I thought this would be the perfect time to do it, and then have my very first book club. So welcome. Um, I'm not sure that I will be staying on YouTube Live for book clubs moving forward, but for now, this is going to have to do. And I want to start by asking you guys to drop your star signs because I think that's one of the most awesome parts of this book. Okay. The magic system is based on the Western zodiac. So it's it's all of our star signs. It's Aries and Gemini and Libra, Taurus, Sagittarius, Virgo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer. Cancer is down there. Um, and I think I missed what Capricorn, Sagittarius. Maybe I'm repeating myself at this point, but the star signs. I am an Aries, and it looks like we have a Cancer in the chat. And the magical abilities that were given to each of these different people, like how cool is it that you're born into your magic and you know immediately what kind of magic you're going to have, apart from the part where some of them were imprisoned, but like magic powers are cool. um Specifically speaking, Aries like me had strength and speed, and then Pisces, I see 2 Pisces in the chat. Pisces was emotional aura and influence. So, like, you could walk around, and if you were like anger feelings, everybody around you would feel angry. And then we had the Cancer, which was, I have notes over here, borrowing ability through touch. Sorry, you're the bad guy. Well, for those of you who have read the book, this will have lots and lots of spoilers in it. So um, that's what a book club discussion is about. Honestly, my big goal from this is that I am asking you guys to help me make a video review for Craig Montgomery. When this is over, I want to take your guys' best comments, your guys' best feedback, your guys' reviews of this book and make a video of it to help my friend. Um, and again, this duology is recently completed, so I think it would be the perfect time to do it. Um, the first thing, no, we've already done the first thing. I already did the star signs, right? The second thing that I wanted to talk about was the sci fantasy genre, kind of in general. I've been reading a lot more of this recently. Like, there's a couple of sci fis I like, but I'm usually a hardcore fantasy nut. Like, I love the fantasy books. And sci fantasy is this weird blend where sometimes it's a little too sci fi and sometimes it's a little too fantasy. But this book struck a really good middle ground with it, um, with the magic system and the technology really kind of married together in a way that felt pretty like seamless. Um, and how many of you guys have read other sci fantasy books? Like the ones that leapt immediately to mind were Gideon the Ninth. Um, but if there's any others that you guys can think of, like drop those in the chat. I want to expand my reading list, and this genre is making an impression. Um, but sci fantasy as a genre is is really about that balance, I guess, is what I want to say. It's about the way magic interacts with science and how science is mostly just magic we don't understand yet. In the chat, a couple additional uh, sci fantasy books are Dragon Raiders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. I have read those. I did not expect them to be sci-fi when I started. Those ones were kind of a surprise. And then somebody else said Endymion. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And yeah, love that. A couple good suggestions down there. Um, but what do you guys think about the sci fantasy genre as a whole? Like, I know it's been done by Anne McCaffrey in the past, and a couple of other older authors have done this, but it seems to be having kind of a resurgence or a rise right now. Like, I've seen a lot more of it the past couple of trips to the bookstore. Um, is it something you enjoy? Is it something that you guys are looking for, or is it just something that you kind of stumble upon, and if you find it, it's a happy accident? Because for me, that's how it happened. I kind of stumbled upon it. It was definitely a happy accident. um, while you guys type about that, Hyperion is the first book, Endymion is the third, is the correction that came up in the chat. So if you're looking for sci fantasy, Hyperion. Isn't that one Ray Bradbury? Who is the author of that one? Sci fantasy is either 100% hit or 100% miss for me, says one of the people in the comments. If it's done well, I like it, but I don't seek it out often. Yeah. Oh, it's by Dan Simmons. My bad, everybody. Hyperion is by Dan Simmons. Um, Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't really seek it out, but I love it when it falls into my lap and it's fantastic. Um, I'm going to talk next about the history element that ties this one in. Now, in writing, there's a genre of fantasy called portal fantasy. And in a portal fantasy, the character is kind of yanked out of their own world and put into another world. Usually it's magical. In this case, it's science magical. Um, but in being moved from one place to another, you leave the normal behind. And there's usually a clean division of the one from the other. But in this case, there isn't, which I thought was fascinating. Um, what did you guys think about the alternate history bit where our astrologies, like Western astrology, was based on this magic system of a people who abandoned Earth? Um, in the book, it talks about how they were chased by the Romans and uh, ran all the way to Egypt and then met up with other magic users, and all of them just got together and left, which, probably wise at the time. But the fact that they were here, they are a part of our culture. Like, this is why there are people over there. I loved that. Very awesome description. Um, Dylan says that was very interesting, and I would love to read more about that. Right? I'm hoping. I haven't read book two yet, guys. I have not read Of Sky So Hollow, but I'm really hoping that there's a little bit more about that in book two. I'll have to report back and let you know, but for sure, that was such a really cool, like, moment. And it was really just a moment. It was just like a paragraph or two, but it stuck in my mind the whole rest of the time, like why this society was very different and at the same time not at all different. Why some of their traditions seemed really archaic because, yeah, when they left Earth, that's what they had, and how some of their traditions seem really like tailored to their society that they have built over the centuries since then. Uh, so yeah, interesting little element that kind of tied it to me, made it personal. Um, give you guys just another moment to put anything in the chat if you would like to. before I move on to the next part of this, when we start actually talking about characters. I'm super excited. Um, A Circle of Stars is, I would say, a political fantasy, which means that the politics play a huge part in everything that goes on in the plot. However, I would also classify it as character driven in the sense that the people are the ones who carried the entire story. And this is not a small story. This is a big, like, massive, spanning story that crosses centuries and places and um, has this caste system. Um, but like the breadth of the story doesn't hold up as much as the characters do in my mind. Like, not to say that it doesn't hold up, it absolutely holds up, but it's the characters that make it matter to me. Um, and of course, our two main characters are Casper and Helix, the cutest little ragamuffins ever. Well, okay, Casper is a little bit of a mess. But Helix is very put together. And you know what they say about opposites attracting, except for they're not actually all that opposite. Um, but I liked the way that romance built. And I'll get more into that a little bit later in the video, but I want to know, of the two, do you have a favorite between Casper and Helix? Because I definitely have a favorite, and it's Casper. I related a lot more to him, and I thought he was one of the most realistic main characters in a Portal fantasy that I have ever read. Um, when they first come and grab him, and he's like, "This is kidnapping." I'm like, "Thank you. Somebody finally said it. This magical adventure is a kidnapping, and it's not nice." Um, and then when they get to the planet's surface of Uranus, and they're, walking around all of that, and Casper is just miserable. She's like, "This place sucks, and this is all awful, and I don't like it." And I'm like, relatable. I also do not want to go camping on the weird alien planet with the things that eat you all the time. Um, so I loved that aspect of it, and I loved when we get the internal thought, um, how Casper thinks, right? And is like barreling through all of his thoughts. Um, in the chat, it says Helix is his own mess, but decades of gaslighting will do that to a person. That is very true. Helix, as a character, is presented as the perfect golden boy. Like, he's the leader and he knows everything, and he's the prince, as they keep teasing him. The prince who is under his grandmother Brissa, um, and like under her thumb, set to take her place, gonna be her little replica basically someday. Um, and yeah, it's a really interesting relationship between him and his grandmother in the sense of having that dynamic with an authoritarian relationship, affecting the character, especially when, big spoiler alert, skip ahead if you don't want to know this, especially when Brissa dies. Um, and the complex feelings that came with that, as he's like, I'm both free and also, what the heck? Like, I'm very upset. And being caught kind of in that middle ground makes a lot of sense. Um, Especially because, like, he's been groomed for this. You were right. He's been gaslit for this for his entire life. He has been prepared for only what she wants from him for his entire life. Um, Talk about a little bit of pressure, right? I know that it happens a little bit in real life. Like, there are people whose parents are like, "You're gonna be a doctor from, like, the moment they're born," or, "You're gonna be a lawyer." Um, Usually because it runs in the family kinda thing, and I feel like this is sort of similar to that, um, but with a bit more, I don't wanna say, like, pressure, but, No, it's with more pressure. Helix is doing his best, okay? He is trying. Um, and I really like how Casper, being such a mess and being so blunt and honest and so open, actually helps Helix kind of figure out how to step away from that perfect persona and just be himself a little more. Um, we see glimpses of it from the very beginning of the story when he's talking to his little squadron. I believe it's Balin, Peter, Gloria, and Malia. Um, and when they go down the planet surface, like before they go down to the planet surface for the first time, Helix gives a little glimpse of being a human and, kind of going against the grain. Malia and Gloria are in a relationship, a secret relationship, because if they're caught in that relationship, one of them has to be reassigned or dismissed from the fighting service. Um, and and he's like, "You guys know that I know, right? Like, but it's cool." Immediately, so that he can kind of let them have their space, and let them be themselves a little bit more. Like, I thought that was really sweet. And it also, again, shows that Helix may not always follow the rules. Um, if the moral compass, his moral compass of compassion, is pointed in another direction, which is great because later it becomes really important that that moral compass is there. Um, both characters have a really strong moral compass too. So I like that. Okay, I think that's a good bit about the characters. Um, if you guys have anything else you want to talk about the characters, feel free to drop it in the chat. But for sure, well, that's the main characters. The side characters are also all very well written. I loved Theo, the grandfather, who's also a Praeton. Um, who is sitting on the council and is like, "Yeah, no, I kinda hecked it up." I really liked him. And then I loved like, little Daphne running around all the time. Loved her. She was, like, barely there. She was the little sprite throughout the story, but I really liked how it was presented each time. Like, she became a little more real each time. Um, and then at the end, got to reunite with her family. Um and all of the different side characters besides that were named. Like, there were so many characters that had names and stories, and that was part of the story about how these politics affected them and why everything on Novolem disintegrated the way that it did. You see that mother have her kid taken away at the very beginning, and then later she comes back and kills Brissa, and she's named. Her name is Gina. Um, so characters were treated like whole people this entire narrative. There was no real temporary, unimportant, no extra life characters. You got a sense that everybody was actually there. She wasn't there for much, but the Chicago ex-girlfriend, her name is Danielle. And yes, the Chicago ex-girlfriend at the very beginning. At the very beginning, Casper is kicked out because he has been outed by someone at his school. He has been expelled from his school, and he goes to his ex-girlfriend, who just found out, along with everybody else, that he is gay, and asks for help, and she and her family do help him. They spend that first night when he's got nowhere else to go. They're like, "Have a shower, take a sleep. We'll figure it out in the morning." And then Danielle was like, "I really only want you here for like one night." And at the same time, the family was like, "But if you need to come back for another night, come back for another night." And instead, he vanished entirely, which, like, I wonder how all of the Chicago people took that. Like, he was thrown out, and then he spent one night at Danielle's, and then he was just gone. Um, popped off to the stars real quick. And when he comes back in, I believe it's the very last chapter, when he comes back to kind of get like he's not actually there to get closure. He's there to show Helix around a little bit and give closure, which I thought was a really interesting take for an epilogue. He stops by to say, "Hey Danielle, I'm good. I'm going back to where I was. So don't worry about it." And like give her that peace of mind about what happened. Um, in the comments, it says, Gia says that I cried. I know, right? Like, he made sure to go not just like a couple hours drive, he went across the universe because he still respected this girl enough to be like, sorry. Sorry about that. My bad. And introduce her to Helix, who is the most important person in his life right now. Um, and then like tell her that this is it. Like, I'm not coming back this time. It's a little hard to get here, maybe. Um, yeah, no, that was like a really good ending. And then they get a little moment under the stars. And that's when Casper kind of gets his closure. That's when he says goodbye to the earth. Um, and when he's ready, he gets up and he says, "Okay, let's go." Um, and that's it. It's just a quiet little moment where he says his goodbye. Um, I just recently moved and I did a lot of little goodbyes. And so I get that like it hit twice as hard when I reread this book than it did before. And yeah, it's a cry about it ending. It's really good. Um, all right, so yeah, anything else about characters? While you guys type up any last thoughts, I'm going to go ahead and stare at my notes for a second. Let's see. A circle of stars. Um, Casper is very relatable. Yes, and Helix is very put together. Yes, and Cass is a mess. Yes, my notes are great, you guys. These are great notes. Um, I want to kind of talk about the writing for a second. As an author, whenever I read a book, I can't help but notice the writing. And that's usually what makes or breaks a book for me. And there are a couple of really interesting elements that were pulled together from this story, um, mostly the POVs. There are a lot of different point of view characters in this story. And you expect Casper and you expect Helix, but there were little hops to a lot of other people as well. Um, and and those little hops and skips, those little moments, really gave us a feel for Novolem as a whole, which made it a very useful tool and made it work really well. Because every time we hopped point of view, it was for a reason. It never felt like I was swapping point of view characters because it was time to swap point of view characters. Like, I haven't done that in 2 chapters, time to skip over there. Like, it wasn't like that. It was purposeful. It was very intentional. And I loved that aspect of it. I also love the way that when Craig is writing in the third person point of view, he still manages to put us in the head of the character. So whoever we're following, we're getting everything they see filtered through them. So it's giving like a little bit of a first person feel in a third person format. Because we get so much from the characters. Um, and yeah, so I had to nerd out about that just a little bit because delicious, delicious. Um, Craig Montgomery is a fantastic writer. um, I loved the political aspects. I said before that the characters might drive the plot, but the plot is massive. This is like literally a world ending plot, but political. And as we are kind of facing a crisis like that at our own home. That's part of why I moved to Germany instead. Um, it hit a little bit. like close to home, like how all of these people were feeling, how all of this was going for them, like how it literally felt in the moment. And uh I really like all the different nuances of the politics and how they came together to create the big climactic crisis with vanishing towers and stealing powers and corrupted aether. All of that came together because of the little bits of politics that were dropped along the way. Um, and all of the politics had something to do with the magic system. Again, really well integrated all of these different elements into each other. Um, so yeah, real quick, if you guys are in the chat, tell me who your favorite point of view character was if it wasn't Casper or Helix. Um, but yeah, the writing elements, God, they're delicious. Let's see. I wanted to talk about yeah, the magic system and how that tied into the politics. First of all, I as a writer, I was looking at all of the different powers and trying to guess how Craig decided to give each of those signs the powers. Daphne's mom, yes, I remember her name. Um, I remember her name. Talea. Yes, Talea and Hector. Talea, Daphne's mom, was a really good POV character, and I liked Hector as well. Not just because of orientations, but um, yeah, the star signs played such a big role in how everybody like interacted with each other. It had its own stereotypes and prejudices. And in the end, Gemini were deemed so dangerous they all had to be imprisoned, um, which I thought was a really interesting choice. I have two theories. One, uh, Craig dated a Gemini and it did not end well, so now Gemini are the enemy. I might be writing a story with a Western zodiac where several of my enemies became bad guys. Um, and two, my other theory is that all of these powers had such depth and thought to them that it made sense to take the political aspect of free thought, of sharing feelings, of empathy, and and put it in a little box. Like And that's kind of what it boils down to, isn't it? Gemini, in the mind bonding magic that they have, are sharing their memories, their feelings, and creating empathy amongst other people for them. And creating empathy about situation. Like they can do a lot of damage, it's true, but from what we're shown, they're not doing that. Um, and I think it's interesting that the threat of empathy, that the threat of the trines, where there's more than one um, sort of alignment, um, I think that the combination of those two elements uh, and Brissa's fear of them was a really interesting part of the story. Like, the powers were interesting in the first place. Some of these abilities, like, I like how it was tied to works of the body and works of the soul and works of the world around you kind of thing. Um, and I liked that element of it, and it felt like each of the star signs, like, it kinda made sense based on all of the things that I've read about, the, common personality traits of these star signs and the, um, the common, you know it felt like reading a horoscope. I went and looked at a couple of astrology sites just to get, like, a feel, um and yeah, it was like, "Oh, yeah, no, all of these make a lot of sense." In the case of Aries, for me, which is the one that I remember best because I am an Aries. In the case of Aries, our power is strength and speed, and I'm like, "That is because we are energizer bunnies of doom." Like, once you get on a track, you're gonna just you're gonna go, you're gonna do it. And we're known as being fiery and fighty and all of that, whether or not we actually are. But I liked that strength and speed was kind of taken from the overall Aries or fighty types. um, so yeah, I liked the powers a lot. I liked the thought that went into this. Um, I can tell that this book was kind of like, I don't wanna say a magnum opus. It was not like the last good thing, but it was art. It was a love labor, like a labor of love. And you can tell from how that story goes that this was literally a labor of love. Um, and oh my gosh, it must have been terrifying to take the book that is your baby and give it to someone else. Um, I have published books in the past, but the book that is my baby, um, I actually have not started shopping yet. Um, and I'm very nervous to do it because, like, what if nobody likes it? Um, Good news, Craig, if you are watching this or if you catch this later, I like it. It's great. I mean, I'm planning on talking about it for at least another 15 minutes. Um, Gia says, "Gimme." I'm assuming that means you want my baby book, but you can't have it yet. Sorry. Um, I have a few more notes here. At the end, um, I really enjoyed that little political scene where they're all at the table of the Pratons, the council, and they're voting on what to do next. And Caesia, uh, one of the last holdouts of the old guard, is like, "No, we're not undoing everything we've been doing for the past couple of years." And they just are like, "I vote to kick her out. Like, we're done with this." And I think that that was brilliant. It was exactly what needed to happen. And then go and be like, all right, now all of those in favor of letting all the people be people wherever they want to be people, say aye. And it passed. And the Geminis were released, and the people on the planet's surface, they had a special name as well. I don't remember what it was, are invited back and get to pop up, to Novolem if they want to, instead of trying to fight and survive on the planet's surface. And like, I like that we see that political mending as well, because it would have been very easy in the wake of that climactic moment to just kind of let the characters carry their own epilogue and then peter out. Um, but before we get the romantic element of the epilogue, before we get a little bit more Casper and Helix, we get the political wrap up. And it's saying that everything is a mess and nothing is fixed and this is going to take a while, all of which are true. But I really like